Monday, September 26, 2022 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bonzel?
Here.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Hanley?
Here.
Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mayor?
Here.
And Mayor Smith.
Sure, thank you. First, we have approval of the agenda. Have a motion on the agenda. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to accept the agenda as written.
Second. Pro Tem Mayor?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Announcements, we have one. I am going to ask our city clerk to provide us with an update on our upcoming election. City clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to provide a quick update today. We kind of finished the process for mailing out absentee ballots for the November midterm elections. They're going to go out in the mail tomorrow, so anybody who's requested them can expect to get absentee ballots throughout this week. Over the counter, they will be available for people who would like to come in and get an absentee ballot starting on Thursday. Applications, registration questions, if you have any issues you're looking to resolve, you can either contact us directly or go to mi.gov/vote. And ballots and applications can be returned by mail. They can be returned over the counter, or they can be returned to our 3 drop boxes. We have a drop box 24 hours at City Hall, at the Municipal Service Center, and now at Lakeview Arena as well.
Thank you, City Clerk. Much appreciated. Item 1 on our agenda, on boards and committees, we have 2 appointments on the docket. Commissioners, do we have a motion on these appointments? Commissioner Davis.
I move we appoint George Patrick Jr. to the Board of Zoning Appeals for an unexpired term ending 2/15/24, and James Brettenbach to the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee for an unexpired term ending 5/30/25.
Do we have a second on that motion? Commissioner Bonzo?
I'll second that motion, Your Honor.
Commissioner Davis, any discussion?
No discussion, just a big thank you for the 2 of them.
And Commissioner Bonzo, any discussion?
Same thing. I really appreciate people stepping up and taking some time out of their busy schedules to serve our community.
Any additional discussion from the commission? Take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. That brings us to our first public comment session of the evening. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address. And just a note for the public that the commission's chance to respond is at the very end of the meeting during commissioner comments. If anyone would like to speak, come over to the center podium here. Name and physical address, please.
Hi, my name is Alicia Brond. My address is 1210 Pine Street in Marquette. Thank you for hearing my comments today. I'm a mother of 5. I also have 3 stepdaughters, so that makes it 8 children. My husband and I do not currently reside together. We haven't been able to because we cannot find a place to live. That's an aside from what my comments are about tonight. I have a bachelor's degree in education. My husband has a bachelor's degree in biology. We both work full-time. We cannot find childcare. I became pregnant in November of 2021, and I was not planning it, so I started calling around for childcare. I was told over and over again that the wait lists were anywhere from 1 to 3 years. I have called monthly ever since then, and I still cannot find anywhere for my children. The problem is that I can't work if I don't have childcare. Currently, my position at Northern is stable, but I am not, because I constantly need to leave work to take care of my kids. The care that I have found is unlicensed. Not to say that it's not good quality care, it's just unlicensed. Through my teenage daughters, college students, and my father and my mother, who are both retired. As an MBA student at NMU, I cannot use the child care factor but in the budgeting, so I cannot get additional funding from financial aid to pay for childcare. I cannot use the cost of childcare as a tax deduction. Otherwise, I would. It's inconsistent, and it's not good for my children. It's not good for my family, and it's extremely stressful for me. My work is suffering, as I mentioned, and my parents have to bear the burden of raising my children so that I can work and my husband can work, and we can work towards the shared goal of trying to find a home for our family where we're not paying for 2 rents. This is not a unique story. There are many families in the same, if not worse, situation. I had a struggle to get here tonight simply because of the time constraints. I'm missing part of my MBA class tonight to be here. Due to these challenges, like I said, my mental health is suffering, and I know I will not be able to continue beyond the rest of this year if I cannot find childcare. I'm asking for help from the community because I know there is a way to make it work. It may not be your responsibility or that of the other commissioners for the county. However, it should be. We should make it our responsibility. We live in this county, we live in this city, and we need help. So I'm here to ask for help in whatever way that is. And I would even say that I would work alongside to find a solution. We need funding, we need help. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, I am speaking partly on behalf of 510 South Street, Marquette, and my address is 711 East Ridge Street, Ishpeming. As a resident who was forced out of Marquette due
Excuse
to
me, name, please. I'm sorry.
Taylor
First and last.
Rutzela.
Thank you.
As a resident who was forced out of Marquette due to a lack of housing and childcare, I find it extremely important that we look forward to see how we can help our families and community together. There are many healthcare professionals, including myself, who have an active CNA license, and I am currently looking for a MSW generalist practicum, which I may not be able to pursue due to the lack of childcare, not only in the city, but also the county. I have major concerns of the city commission coming forward with the board, as they did create with the ad hoc housing commission, which I followed greatly and saw how it failed at doing its job. This is the reason I am now part of a trusted parent engagement board across the state that discusses housing and parenting. Both of these things go hand in hand, as if there is no child care, one cannot be a provider for their children, nor pay for housing. In 2021, it was 20% of Marquette City that was below the poverty line. Now it's up to 26%. We are growing an impoverished city where many cannot live. This is how we will see this collapse of Marquette being for the Yoopers. Only those that are going to college or are from out of state that already paid exorbitant prices for rent and or housing will be able to afford to live in Marquette. This will lead to many businesses closing, as many of their workers are locals who cannot afford a commute from Ishpeming, Negaunee, or Harvey, as gas prices are skyrocketing. As we look forward to address these issues, I suggest and urge the City Commission to look into hiring a social worker for the city, someone who is unaffected by the elections or other outside influences, as social workers are specialized in marginalized populations and have a background in the NSWA Code of Ethics. This will help ensure our city has many resources to work towards these infrastructure issues. There are child care centers that are closed or cut due to occupancy, lack of staffing. However, I know many would work if child centers would allow them to bring their children. This may sound silly, but as long as it's not over 5 children that a parent is bringing in, a new staff opens up 5 new spots, and some daycares are licensed up to 12 new kids per staff member. I learned this working at Kids Club, so simply saying there isn't staffing or need will not cut it. If we want to grow the city and be maintained, we must invest in the younger population of Marquette. I would recommend the city of Marquette also look into the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission as the city has grown. Many who live in the area, such as Towbridge, the Village, or other parts of the city that are considered parts of Marquette City, are not able to vote for important elections such as the mayor, road commission, or city commissioners. This has led.
That's 3 minutes. Thank you. I
Sorry.
appreciate it. There's another public comment at the end if you'd like to continue.
Good evening, Marquette City Commissioners. My name is Shilpa Jobalia. I live at 1085 Woodridge Avenue. I am a mother of 3 children, ages 2, 4, and 6. I have a master's degree in counseling and cannot currently work full-time because I cannot find childcare. I am also a parent liaison for Marquette Great Start Parent Coalition, an active member of both the UP Child Care Task Force and the Child Care Coalition that recently released this Marquette County Child Care and Homelessness Needs Assessment that I gave to the city clerk. This past year, many early childhood leaders helped launch surveys, focus groups, and gathered endless data, clearly showing that one of the biggest problems facing our families is lack of childcare. There simply are not enough childcare spots for children under the age of 5. Infant childcare is non-existent, and wait lists for toddlers are 1 to 2 years long. Last week, families rallied at the Children's March and provided public comment at the Marquette County Commissioners meeting, asking for more ARPA funding for childcare beyond the $100,000 they have already allocated. Commission Chair Gerald Corkin dismissed our concerns and said, as quoted in their Mining Journal on September 22nd, "You don't know what you're talking about. It's not our responsibility. It's not to support childcare for all of Marquette County." The county commissioners have earmarked $1.5 million of ARPA funding, which is supposed to be COVID relief funding for courthouse renovations. That amount of money could support 3 local childcare providers who have formally requested ARPA funding to expand or start childcare centers. The YMCA has asked for $1.2 million in addition to their own investment of $750,000 to expand their center, which will add 40 new child care spots. Epic Center has requested $222,635 to open up 16 spots, and Carrie Scanlon has requested $50,000 to open 11 new spots in Ishpeming. We also recognize teacher training scholarships as a crucial part, and $5,000 can earn 12 students their CDA. I'm asking you to move up towards tangible solutions and to help mitigate the childcare crisis. The county has mentioned to me last week that they are interested in matching funds in order to tackle the problem. In addition to identifying money in your new budget that can be allocated towards childcare solutions, I encourage city staff to meet with county staff to discuss fund matching and cost-sharing solutions to the child care crisis.
That's 3 minutes. Again, there's another public comment at the end if you'd like to continue.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Abrielle Londo. My address is 346 Stratford Street, Gwynn, Michigan. I didn't really have time with all the kids being home today to write a formal speech, but I am a resident of Marquette County. I am also a full-time mom. I am in school 3/4 of the time, and I do have a full-time job. I am also a military spouse. My husband is currently gone for training till the end of the month, and I have been alone this whole month, along with 150 soldiers are supposed to be soon be spending time away from home for an entire year. There is a huge problem and lack of childcare in this community, along with after-school programs, not only in Marquette County, but the problem is nationwide. I would hope that someone would take a stand and do something about this, which is why we are all here today. For the last 6 years that I've had children, I have realized the lack of childcare in the area, the lack of programs. I also brought my daughter and other kids to the park the other day and realized how run down it is. These are things that the city and the county should be looking at. During the school year, childcare isn't so bad, but it's the after-school programs that we have to worry about, which there are not many, along with the summers. AMCAB is a early childhood development program that they have, and they do have it running year-round. I'm hoping that some of the ARPA funds can be used to not only fund them through the school year, but through the summer, which is when parents are most desperate for childcare. If we can have educational programs through the summer, this would probably help a lot of the crisis, especially for our 9-to-5 parents. Especially while my husband is spending time away from home for the year. Doing this by myself is going to be very hard, and it's going to be very hard not having the after-school programs that we need. Say for tonight, I just had a woman ask me to turn my phone down and the kids to be more quiet. Well, guess what? This is our point. This is a problem. These military spouses, along with other spouses and other families, are going to be burned out. We're going to be tired because doing this alone is not easy. Doing this with both parents isn't easy. So we're hoping that somebody, whether it's you guys, whether it's our senator, that someone is going to hear us and take a stand and maybe give us some of the relief that these mothers and fathers and communities so desperately need. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. My name is Christine Stern. I'm a newer arrival to Marquette. I've been here about 2 years.
Address, please. Thank you.
Yep, 709 Horizons Drive.
Thank you.
Marquette. And thank you all for your service. You've made a beautiful community in so many ways. It's so much more than what I expected. But I am a mother of 2 and had expected to go back to work about a year ago and have just really struggled to find care. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Obviously, the 5-year-old's in kindergarten now. But it's for a new arrival, it makes the decision to stay harder. And I just think it's a really beautiful community. And I think if this is something that can be thoughtfully addressed, I know there's no quick fix. And my husband's an economics professor and talks to me all the time about supply and demand. But I guess I just would ask, given the opportunity with the ARPA funds, one of the pieces of information that has been communicated to us is if there's other ways that we can find funds to match that potentially will have better impact and the opportunity for the county commission not to feel like they're going out on a limb. So thank you for all that you do and any of your consideration on this issue.
I'm going to change the tone a little. I'm Johanna Worley, member of the League of Women Voters, 1013 Alloway Road here in Marquette. And I just have a letter that I'm going to read aloud to both Jenna and Karen from the League, from an activity that the League has been doing for the last couple of years, well, not during COVID, but for Constitution Day, we celebrate the right to vote, and we have been working with children. We last week also went to the alternative high school and Republic High School to register kids to vote. But here is the kind of what happened at our celebration at the public library. So, dear Mayor Smith and City Manager Kovacs, we, the future voters of Marquette, in celebration of Constitution Day, have just finished participating in a program called Hooked on Voting, sponsored by the Marquette County League of Women Voters and hosted by Youth Services Department of the Peter White Library on Saturday, September 17th. We learned about elections and the importance of voting and how to make our voices heard. As part of the event, we voted on a project which we felt would make our neighborhood a nicer place to live and walk and play. The projects that we voted on were pick up litter along the streets, plant flowers along the curb, put up a free little library, put out cans for dog poop bags. The winning project was pick up litter, and we had the kids fill out these little fish, kind of poster things. We would like your help in passing a resolution by the City Commission recognizing our winning Make Your Neighborhood a Nicer Place to Live, Walk and Play project as an official City of Marquette program. So hopefully all the kids in Marquette will be encouraged to participate, which will benefit the city. We'd like to thank Margaret Broom for sharing her exhibit showing some of the litter and junk that people dump around Marquette. Thank you for your help. Sincerely, members of the future voters of Marquette. On behalf of the League of Women Voters. So we had quite a nice turnout, and we'll be at the Farmers Market October 22nd doing another kind of fun event with kids. So Thank you for your time.
To the city clerk, please, down at the end. And again, our chance to respond will be at the end. Thank you very much. If you want, you can hand those to the city clerk. It's up to you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, my name is Ryan Stock. I live at 1085 Woodridge Avenue. I'm a member of this community, and I'm about to say something that may seem a little bit controversial or counterintuitive to many people in this room. Marquette County is not a great place to raise children. It just isn't. We're in the middle of a childcare crisis. It's hitting all of us hard. I have 3 kids, all of which are here today, some of which have been making a lot of noise during the proceedings today, which some may feel is disruptive. The crying, the screaming, the running around, the snacks. We've already received some dirty looks from people in this room. It's disruptive, isn't it? But think how we feel when we can't do our job or even hold down jobs because we cannot find adequate childcare for our young children. It is extremely disruptive. This county and this city is hemorrhaging talent because people cannot find childcare. People are moving away from NMU. Okay, I know this. I know people who have left Marquette and left jobs at Northern Michigan University, where I work as a professor, because they just simply cannot find childcare. It is super disruptive. Children are your constituents. They're critical infrastructure for this city. And so I know that all of you are doing excellent work in this city. I happen to like all of you. I am greatly appreciative for ways in which we've collaborated in the past. And so knowing that there is ARPA funding coming from the federal government to the city, I implore you to think about ways in which you can either leverage some of those funds or funds in your new budget to help put a small dent in this childcare crisis. Stop the bleeding. There are so many of us that are suffering, many people in this room also who are suffering from the childcare crisis. It's not going to get better unless we have these uncomfortable conversations and put money into the future of the city and the future of the city, some of whom are here crying, screaming, and disrupting your proceedings. They are the critical infrastructure of this city. And so I want to thank you for your time, and please consider allocating some money out of your new budget to stop the childcare crisis. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, I am Britta Carlson. My address is 112 Newberry Street. I would like to say that I'm part of the solution today. I'm a single mom, 5-year-old, made it through the pandemic, barely, right? Because childcare wasn't an option, and of those, they closed. And so I want to share with you my story and my journey of how I'm fighting for change for these parents and myself. I was an early on provider, and I worked with 0 to 3-year-olds with developmental delays. I had to leave the workforce because I had no flexibility in my job with a newborn at home, caring for the community's newborns. Since then, I have worked in the schools and opened my own business, and am actively fighting to provide change for these families that are talking about our kids in our community. The economic development of the women in our community is huge. We had over 275,000 women leave Michigan jobs as females during the pandemic. We know that 70% of females' income goes right back to their communities. Males, 30%. That's a big impact on our community. The White House cites that the American Rescue Plan funds are to promote emergency grants, lending, and investment to hard-hit small businesses so they can rehire and retain workers and purchase health and sanitization equipment. I can tell you in the last 6 months since I started opening EPIC, the educational partnership in the community, I have spent $50,000 through angel investments, friends, family, my entire paycheck. I spend the middle of the night trying to consider how we're gonna make it through the next step of requirements. This last week, we've put in a sink. We've put $15,000 into a mechanical room for it to be approved by the state for childcare licensing. I'm working at the top level of the state to get our local departments to communicate. We have 2 fire inspectors in the entire UP that can approve childcares, so that's 2 to 3 months. So for 6 months, I've had no revenue coming in and rent going out every month. And that's just simply getting these inspections lined up. We were fortunate enough to hound the lead inspector, one in the entire UP, to stop on his 4th of July family vacation to approve our facility from the lead inspector standpoint. That test was $2,100. I estimated $400. These are big impacts to what downstate doesn't realize about opening a child care facility here. They have a $750 credit once you open the facility. That's not even a portion of the lead test. We also had to put in a fireproof door. There's only 2 manufacturers in the whole US. That put off our opening by 3 weeks. And I spoke with a mom sobbing on the phone that she had to figure out 3 more weeks. And she's a respiratory therapist at the hospital and would have to leave her job if I couldn't get her a slot. So we have staff coming in at 6 a.m. to accommodate her. And our infant slots are full. We're set to open next week.
That is 3 minutes. You can continue in the second public comment if you'd like.
You.
Anyone else for public comment?
My name's Angela Rayhorn. I live at 1025 2nd Street. I was planning to comment tonight about something else, but I felt like I'd go with the theme. My youngest is in 6th grade, so childcare, so 6th freshman and senior. Childcare is not currently an issue, however, for my personal family. However, I wanted to share that it is a community issue. So my husband and I talk about when we moved back to Marquette in 2016, the house we bought currently, he was the only one working. We would currently not be able to buy that house in the same situation. And that's mind-blowing to us, how much more a house would cost, that we'd have to be a 2-income family, which I am a teacher now, so we are, but it's mind-blowing in a way that's not like, oh, thank goodness, lucky us. It's concerning as a community member for everyone else moving to the community or wanting to stay in the community. And while our children are already old enough to pretty much take care of themselves, I mean, we keep an eye on them. I have multiple coworkers at Graver Elementary. I have friends at church and friends in the community who do have this struggle. So even if we don't personally have that need in our own lives, I hope that the community realizes that it's an entire community situation. So I've appreciated hearing the specific examples this evening and just wanted to lend my voice to that, in that I don't need childcare, but I am a concerned community member about this issue and affordable housing as well. Thanks.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further comment, public comment is now closed. Up next, we have a presentation from the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee by Madeline Arquette. Thank you, Madeline, for joining us this evening. You can come over to the side podium. We'll get the presentation queued up. Always great to hear about what arts and culture is up to.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Madeline Arquette, and it is a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to all of you, as well as the City Commission, about the City of Marquette Office of Arts and Culture. So, jumping right in, I'd like to reaffirm the mission behind the Office of Arts and Culture, so that the information that's to come can substantiate the office's effectiveness and success in their work. The mission of the Office of Arts and Culture is to advise the City Commission in its effort to support, facilitate, and grow an empowered cultural and creative community. The Office of Arts and Culture staff is surprisingly made up of just 3 outstanding individuals, all of them seated here today. Tina Morin, Tristan Luoma, and Amelia Pruitt. I say surprisingly because of the number of accomplishments that are achieved and the weight of impact that is created by just one full-time position, a shared full-time position, and a single part-time position. I think it's important to note that such high levels of efficiency and community respect don't often go hand in hand. While their trusted trio serves as the meat and potatoes of the office, they do have a decorated committee of creative entrepreneurs, advocates, and volunteers to support them in their endeavors. Madeline Gumman, Michael Bradford, Jamie Weeder, John Teichman, and I are all very lucky to be a part of it. So, getting into the specifics, the overarching project that the Office of Arts and Culture has been tasked with is the Arts and Culture Master Plan. Comprised of two primary initiatives, it's designed to help to aid the Office of Arts and Culture in its mission to fulfill all of the community tasks, events, and beautiful things that they put together. As the master plan nears its end, it's important to ideate now how we can spend the next 2 years solidifying the longevity and sustainability of its efforts, as well as what foundations we want to have in place for the future of arts and culture in Marquette. So diving deeper, the Office of Arts and Culture works through three main avenues that comprises the cornerstones of their purpose: civic engagement, partnership and collaboration, and economic development. The first cornerstone would be civic engagement and education. So with the cornerstone of civic engagement education, it's often misinterpreted to mean that it's focused solely on events and programming. Its definition could be better used to describe how the Office of Arts and Culture serves as a resource hub that connects the arts to the community and expediting creative growth as a result. The Office of Arts and Culture is the facilitator in building bridges that span across the Marquette community by serving as the epicenter for each of these facets to collaborate, discover resources, receive support, and more. To cite an example of this cornerstone, the annual Art Awards is a people-first community celebration that's driven by local voices through nominations to provide recognition for the individual and collaborative contributions that the creative community has made to the city of Marquette. This is a good example of how one of many events hosted by the Office of Arts and Culture can serve as an accessible opportunity for the community to celebrate arts and culture. And in addition, the event itself highlights how every creative contributor made an impact on the community in various ways, honoring both different media and demographics. The single event illustrates the connection between the five facets in a large celebration and is one of the rare times when everyone in the creative sector gathers together in one place to network and collaborate, while also celebrating everyone's unique role in uplifting the creative community and local culture. The second cornerstone of the Office of Arts and Culture is partnership and collaboration. The list before you is a summarized collection of the current partnerships that the Office of Arts and Culture has built and maintained. As you can see, they are very good at building sustainable and mutually beneficial relationships at the city, county, regional, and state levels. To provide an example of their cornerstone of partnership and collaboration, I present Marquette First Thursdays as a case study. This event is just one example of many that illustrate how the Office of Arts and Culture provides resources to facilitate these kinds of community events. The story is that an individual artist, Joey Gracie, came to the Office of Arts and Culture with the idea of bringing back this event, and together with their combined staff, the Office of Arts and Culture helped develop this recurring event by offering resources and coordinating its sustainability with Joe and Gianna. As of now, one of the greatest results from this collaboration is Edges, a marketing agency, investment in a Marquette branch. With just a little assistance, the Office of Arts and Culture successfully helped bring a business to Marquette while also helping establish a fantastic interactive event for the community. The event itself is accessible to the community, boosts the local economy, provides professional development for artists, and has been featured in various media outlets, drawing positive attention to the city and its creative collectives. The third and final cornerstone of the Office of Arts and Culture is economic development. So while the common interpretation of economic development uses buzzwords such as angel investors, maximizing capital, and entrepreneurial expansion, that's not necessarily the kind of development that the citizens of Marquette want at this point in time. With the tourism industry boasting one of the highest streams of income for the city's economy, it's important that the economic development we pursue as a community is one decided by the community for the benefit of the community and its surrounding ecosystem. For example, the Cultural Trail is a developing project that the Office of Arts and Culture has been collaborating on with multiple organizations in recent months. So far, it has received more than $195,000 in funding and builds towards an equitable and inclusive community by highlighting Indigenous American and immigrant groups. The Cultural Trail serves as a community-supported economic development project on the lakeshore that is designed for the public and brings heritage tourism using a creative and cultural avenue. To cite a specific portion of the Cultural Trail as a case study for your review, Lighthouse Park serves as a perfect example. Events hosted in this location, not far from downtown Marquette, provide a perfect chance for public forum that allows for the community to offer feedback and the city to conduct important surveys. To explain, the recent Art Week events hosted there allowed the Office of Arts and Culture to engage the community in an effort to get input and collect information on their opinions regarding future developments and more. It serves as a great example of how arts and culture events and programming can be used as a way to collect community feedback. The space itself also has an economic impact from tourists visiting events such as Art Week, the Plein Air Festival, concerts and guided historical tours, live dance performances, local art, and future opportunities to come. If it weren't for the Office of Arts and Culture, the stories told of Marquette and the surrounding area would not be the glistening accounts of adventure, beauty, and warm welcomes that we hear from our visiting friends and loved ones. With continued support from the City Commission in the form of necessary funding and/or greater recognition in the city government, the Office of Arts and Culture can reach the full potential of Marquette storytelling and public access to it. This will allow the city to engage with the local community in a more meaningful and mutually beneficial way. The goal is to begin using arts and culture as the conduit to the community to understand and communicate what needs to be done to move forward together. To achieve that goal, voices need to be heard and investments need to be made. To emphasize the importance of the Office of Arts and Culture, I'd like to point out the levels of representation that they provided to the city of Marquette. On a local stage, they have worked closely with the UP Arts and Culture Alliance to expand the creative collaboration of communities across the Upper Peninsula. More recently, they were hosts to the Michigan Arts and Culture Council and are now considered cultural ambassadors from the UP to the state of Michigan. Most impressively of all, with the recent awarding of the Our Town grant from the National Endowment of the Arts, they are representing Marquette, the Upper Peninsula, and the state of Michigan in a creative and collaborative capacity at the national level. Now that I've bragged all about the wonderful and impressive impacts that the Office of Arts and Culture has made, let me point out on what we're working on in the near future. Developing the cultural trail, working on expanding the Marquette Compass, advocating for the Presque Isle Bandshell project, and continuing to work with partners and offer vital resources to the community. While we're nearing the end, I'd also like to note that we have not included any information on the Office of Arts and Culture's day-to-day operations, the senior arts programs, and the Public Art Commission to consolidate time. But you will receive notice on those programs and initiatives from the representatives in due course. To conclude the presentation, I would like to again offer my thanks for your attention and support of the arts and culture initiatives in Marquette. I personally grew to be the successful artist and business owner I am today because of the vital investment that this city made in the arts when I was a child. I'm here now to return the favor by asking you to continue to prioritize that investment so that the children in our community can grow and nurture their creativity for generations to come.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or discussion? Commissioner Davis.
Madeline, I just want to thank you for such a really nice presentation. Not only did you inform us what they're doing, there's a lot of education there that you gave to us. It was Christine Stearns who spoke earlier about being new to the community and why she loves it so much. And the arts and culture in Marquette is really one of the reasons for that. I can't imagine Marquette without it, and it's really part of our placemaking. There's so much that happens with the arts. There's a very talented staff and a very obviously dedicated committee, so thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to some of your future things like the economic impact. In fact, the fact that people leave the area because they can't find housing and want to stay here because of the arts being one of those reasons is very significant. So I've also heard recently of people who come here for arts and then decide to move here, which is really encouraging. So thank you. I'm looking forward to that economic impact study, and I'm really hoping that we can do something for the bandshell in the near future.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Well, I'll just add, I always appreciate the presentation and hear what's going on and what you're looking forward to doing. A lot of excellent work by the Arts and Culture Committee, also the Arts Department, there's always something new and exciting around the corner, and unpredictable at times in the best way possible. I will say, well, I have 2 kids, and I'll get into that later. I'll talk about childcare later, but my 6-year-old daughter has recently stated she wants to be an art teacher, and I would accredit that to some of the wonderful art events she's been able to attend her whole life here. I don't know that she'd have that same goal. It'll change, I'm sure, but it's exciting for now.
That was my first career choice too, so she's on the up and up.
Any other commissioners? Thank you, Madeline. We really appreciate having you here tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have one public hearing tonight. This is our Budget and General Appropriations Act fiscal year 2023. This will require a roll call vote. Nope. Yep, it is. Okay, I got mixed up. I thought it was item 4. Item 3, we're good. Commissioners, we have a motion on this item. Public hearing. Sorry, guys. No. Okay, so public hearing is, sorry about that, guys. Similar to public comment, although the comments for a public hearing need to be related to the budget. 3 minutes on the clock, name and physical address, unless you've already stated it during this meeting. Anyone like to provide a public comment on the public hearing, the budget and general appropriations for fiscal year 23? Public hearing is now open. If you'd like, you can approach center podium. Anyone for the public hearing? Okay, seeing, okay.
Hi, my name is Shilpa Jobali. I live at 1085 Woodridge Avenue. And today on the radio, I heard that you guys are working on your new budget, and childcare, as you saw and witnessed and saw me struggling up here, is a huge, huge, huge concern for families. A parent recently told me that it's not fair that I have to lean on my aging parent to watch my child for 8 to 10 hours a day. That's not how my 75-year-old parent should be living in retirement. I personally don't have my parents nearby. They're in Chicagoland, so I don't even have the luxury of, taking advantage of my parents, but it's a real issue here, and people like myself, Christine, we can't return back to work, and I would love to provide mental health services. I'm a trilingual counselor therapist, but I can't because I have a 2.5-year-old with special needs, and who's going to watch her? I've called several places in the community, and they told me, we can't even put you on the wait list because by the time it's her turn, she will have aged out. So we're not even going to put you on a wait list. So when you get that kind of response, it's very depressing. It's very hard to utilize the talents and the education that I worked for. So many parents, healthcare workers. I have nurses that tell me they cannot work a 12-hour shift because there is no daycare that's going to watch their kid during that 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or the night shift. So it's a real issue, and if you guys could consider allotting some of your budget towards childcare, I really think it would make an impact in our community. It would bring especially women back to work, and I think you would see people wanting to stay here and not leaving because they have no other choice. Everybody has dreams for their kids. People want to send their kids to college. Well, we're a single income family pretty much, and I cannot save money and send them to college if I'm also not earning. So that can force families to leave Marquette. And it is a beautiful city. I love the community. I love the families and the people I meet here. But ultimately, people want to make a living, and they don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. We can barely even take a vacation once a year. Our vacation this year was a 2-night trip to Green Bay, and that's as good as it's going to get for my family. So nothing to say wrong about Green Bay, but there's no Hawaii or out-of-country vacation happening for my family. So I just want to take this time. When I heard it on the radio, I think your ARPA funds have been spent or allocated, but maybe there's a new opportunity here that, all these experts and brilliant minds can come together and find a way to support local childcare providers in your budget. Thank you.
Anyone else for the public hearing? Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no additional comment for the public hearing is now closed. All right, commissioners, do we have a motion on item 3, the Budget and General Appropriations Act? Nobody? Okay. I'll wait. Commissioner Davis?
So a little pause there. I move that we adopt the fiscal year 2023 budget and general appropriations act.
And do we have a second on that motion? Pro Tem Mayor?
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Commissioner Davis, any discussion?
Yeah, you know, it's no news to the community that this was a difficult budget to put together. And I want to thank the city staff, you know, administration, absolutely, department heads who had to sharpen their pencil, and the rank and file, they had to hear and understand the difficulties that we had in our budget this year. And so thank you so much for digging deep and discovering those efficiencies and making the cuts necessary to get us to this point. You know, it's not the budget that any of us had hoped for. I'd love to say that we have money for childcare, but, you know, we've got streets and capital improvements are at their basic minimum. We raise taxes, we raise fees, we cut services, and we still need to tap our reserves. But it's the budget we have, and I really think that we are being set up for future fiscal success. And just want the community to know that we are continuing to working diligently to finding new revenues and finding new efficiencies. And again, thank you, staff. Thank you, community, for understanding.
Pro Tem Mayor, any discussion?
I would say I agree with everything Commissioner Davis just said, and again, really want to emphasize too, our city manager, our assistant city manager, all of our department heads and city staff are really working so hard over the last few months to. By the way, I'm not sick, everyone. My voice is just really shot. For really, though, working so hard to get us to a point right now where we can start to see the light at the end of that tunnel. And unfortunately, you know, our ARPA funding was only $2 million, and we had to use that on basic city services. If we had, say, I don't know, 13 million, maybe we could have figured something else out. But again, just thank you to everyone and our staff for working so hard on this.
Any additional discussion from the commission? Commissioner Bonzo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that as Mayor Pro Tem Mayor said, we had less than, well, about $2 million in ARPA funding, and I just want to make sure I'm correct on this, City Manager. Is all of that funding been allocated? Do we have anything that's left unallocated at this point?
So at this point, a portion of it was already used for the purchase of a much-needed replacement for the fire pumper. And then I do believe the rest of it is being used as more of a revenue allocation, or if it's something specific, it's capital that would have had to been replaced and spent with general fund dollars as already planned.
Okay, yeah. So unfortunately, we are not in the privileged position that the County Board of Commissioners is in to have $13 million in as yet unallocated ARPA funding lying around. So I hope to see some action there. I joined folks at the County Board meeting a few days ago and offered some public comment just as a resident of the community that's concerned about childcare and child well-being. However, given that we do not have ARPA funding left to allocate, I'm looking at this list of priorities that was handed out, potential opportunities for local government to make a difference on childcare. And there's some pretty heavy hitting items on here, right? Our YMCA project that one of our speakers during public comment mentioned, that's over $1 million. Of course, we've heard from the Epic Center, that's over $200,000. Carrie Scanlon out in Ishpeming is trying to create 11 new childcare spots that'll cost $50,000. But we get to the bottom of this list, and while certainly I think additional research would need to be done and coordination would need to be done, we could get, if somebody could find $5,000, you could train 12 child development associate students with that $5,000. That's not per student, is my understanding. That's for all 12, which could make a significant difference in a community our size. So I was looking at our budget, and I know that we already reduced our promotional fund significantly this year to balance our budget. But just looking at what is allocated in fee relief for fiscal '23, we're looking at, I believe, this is on page 55 of the city budget. We're looking at $33,200 that's been allocated for fee relief in our promotional fund. And there are certain organizations in that promotional fund that, you know, like the DDA puts on holiday events and festivals and things like that. We've got our beautification committee, you know, 4th of July fireworks, the city band, our Pigs in Heat fire relief fund that I think are sort of inviolable. These are allocations of funding that, you know, there's really nothing that we can or should do to change fee relief for those. But when you subtract out all of those events that I think we could all agree are critical, you're still left with about $18,000 by my math in promotional fee relief. So I'm not making an amendment or a proposal right now, but I think there is a little bit of wiggle room to do at least something nominal on childcare this year. $5,000 is a very small amount of money. I know we're operating within very tight constraints, but I also think it is important, given the urgency of this problem, for the city to have some skin in the game, especially if we're asking or expecting our county elected officials to put up a much larger amount of funding. So something to consider perhaps for a future budget amendment, which my understanding is we will likely have to consider budget amendments, not just in this year, but in the next few weeks, maybe even. So I'm just going to put that out there that I think we should have, I would like to see our city staff try and figure out what the details are on this teacher training for child development associates, and think about what we can do for a small, you know, 4 figures dollar amount that could make a big impact in our community. And then we can go to our residents and say, hey, we got a really tight budget, but we're doing something. We're doing what we can, which is all anybody in this room is doing, right? So I'll just offer that up. I intend to vote for this budget. As I said, I don't feel prepared to offer any kind of budget amendment to this point, but I'd like to see some funding for childcare in one of our upcoming budget amendments, even if we have to make some tough choices.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Hanley?
I'm going to be quick and just say everything that Evan said.
Commissioner Bonzel? Sorry. Commissioner Hill?
I'd also like to add that there's a lot of money laying on the table in Lansing, and when we know what, I mean, when I say a lot of money, there's billions with a B sitting on the table in Lansing right now, and that money will need to be allocated by the end of December. And so I would build on what Commissioner Bonsall brought up about the idea that we could be doing a budget amendment, seeing what is going to possibly be available to us, and putting some skin in the game. I think it would greatly be a real sign of our concern about the community. What we've heard tonight, certainly hearing from many other members of the community who couldn't be here tonight about these struggles. And I would maybe even set the expectation that we would relook at what possibilities are after December.
Commissioner Stonehill?
I would only point out that if we had $1 million sitting in the room right now that was usable, we don't have a plan to use it. We don't know how you would legally do what with it, or how to make that work in our favor, or how we could leverage it. So it would make sense to me that we have a plan before we worry about where the money comes from, because we've got to do the 2 actions near simultaneously. I would also point out that we have $30,000 in our discretionary fund for public art that we can withdraw at any time. That's not an obligated fund. That money is obligated or provided at the discretion of the commission. We can withdraw that money and use that with the money that Commissioner Bonzel looked at and spoke to. So we do have some opportunity for funding here at a very low level that I fear would do very little to try and alleviate what is a very large problem. But if you want to send the message, we can send the message that way. I would also point out that when you seek money where money is, which right now is the county board with $13 million. have expendable money right now from ARPA. They can provide it. It's also the state of Michigan, as Commissioner Hill mentioned. I think there was an article in the Free Press a couple days ago that talked about how the legislators had carved up $1 billion of ARPA money for pet projects. $1 billion. So the money is in Lansing. It's not in this city hall. But that's where the pressure needs to be applied, because that's where the money is that we can use to help this community as well as other communities. Thank you for your time, Your Honor.
Any other comments from the commission? It's been a tough budget season. It's actually been a couple of tough budget seasons. And I'm really proud of the work that our city leadership and our city department heads and all the city staff have done to get us to this point. I know it's not been easy. This budget, as it currently stands, does not include raises for our staff. We're at that level. I'm hoping that we can find a way to do that. Negotiations are set to occur at some point here. But I hear you in that childcare is an issue. I've personally experienced it in this town. I could tell a story that'd be 20 minutes long, but my experiences with my 6-year-old, my 2.5-year-old, and having to wait literally years to get any kind of childcare that wasn't family or a nanny that was outside of our price range. I get it. I've been working informally on task forces for childcare for nearly 10 years in this community, and I haven't gotten very far. So I am open to ideas. I am willing to stand alongside anyone who needs help. I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to go there. And I can tell you a couple items down on our agenda with this master planning process, item 8. It is my hope that we can get something in our master plan that addresses childcare. It is not currently in our master plan, so there's not much we can do as the city of Marquette to financially support childcare because it's not in our master plan. But I'm hoping that changes with this next one. That's what I have. Okay, so let's take a vote on the budget. Passionate topic of mine. Sorry, guys. This is a roll call vote. I'm just trying to get back to item 3. There we go. City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bonzel?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanley?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mayor?
Yes.
And Mayor Smith.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, up next, we have item 4, consent agenda. Commissioners, do we have a motion on consent? Commissioner Bonzel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
And do we have a second? Pro Tem Mayor?
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to new business, item 5, budget adjustment for our current fiscal year, 2022. Commissioners, do we have City Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. In order to stay in compliance with state and local laws and regulations, the city should complete each fiscal year with a budget in which actual expenditure amounts do not exceed budget amounts. The attached schedule illustrates funds with projected fiscal year-end activities that exceed current budgeted amounts. Fiscal effect: approval of the adjustments will help ensure the city stays in compliance with budgetary rules and regulations. Recommendation: approve the budget adjustments for fiscal year 2022 and authorize the chief financial officer to make the necessary adjustments to balance the budgets. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this? Commissioner Bonzel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we approve the budget adjustments for fiscal year 2022 and authorize the chief financial officer to make the necessary adjustments to balance the budgets.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Hill?
I second the motion.
Any discussion, Commissioner Bonzel? Commissioner Hill?
No, just note that this is on page 131 of the packet for today's meeting, and there are just a few items that have monies being moved around just to bring it into balance. And I again want to echo the hard work that staff have put in to get our numbers straight and lined up, and that we have more work in front of us, but really appreciate all the work that's been done this year. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion from the commission? All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 6 on new business, city attorney evaluation. City clerk, review the background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The city charter requires an annual performance evaluation of the city attorney. In July, the City Commission authorized the mayor to appoint a subcommittee consisting of Commissioners Bonzal, Davis, and Stonehouse to the evaluation committee. The subcommittee met to review the city attorney's performance and compensation earlier this month. The overall evaluation was very positive. The city attorney has successfully met all charter requirements for her position. Commissioner feedback has been provided to the city attorney directly. The committee recommends the term of the city attorney's contract be extended for 2 years. In reviewing commissioners' recommendations and city budgetary constraints, the committee also recommends the commission revisit the attorney's compensation in the near future. Fiscal effect, none by this action. Recommendation, approve the city attorney's annual performance evaluation and extend the term of the attorney's contract by 2 years to September 30th, 2024 at the existing compensation level. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Do we have a motion, Commissioner Hill?
I move that we approve the city attorney's annual performance evaluation and extend the term of the attorney's contract by 2 years to September 30, 2024 at the existing compensation level.
And do we have a second? Pro-Tem Mayor?
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Commissioner Hill, any discussion?
I thank you very much, Suzanne. And this bringing the city attorney back in-house after being outside the city has been a win on multiple fronts in city operations, in getting work done for the city, in getting a backlog of things taken care of that had, some of which had been extended for years. So really appreciate the work you put in. I'm really glad we could continue the contract for 2 more years.
Pro-Tem Mayor, anything to add?
Just that I hope you accept the new contract and stick with us for 2 more years.
It's my honor to, yes.
Any other commissioners? Let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Number 7, city manager evaluation. City clerk, could we have the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The city charter requires an annual performance evaluation of the city manager. In July, the City Commission authorized the mayor to appoint a subcommittee consisting of Commissioners Bonzal, Davis, and Stonehouse to the evaluation committee. The subcommittee met to review the city manager's performance and compensation earlier this month. The overall evaluation was very positive. The manager has successfully met all the city charter requirements for her position, and the majority of city commissioners awarded her the highest rating in all other performance categories. Commissioner comments and suggestions have been provided to the city manager. The committee recommends the term of the city manager's contract be extended for 2 years. In reviewing commissioners' recommendations and city budgetary constraints, the committee also recommends the commission revisit the manager's compensation in the near future. Fiscal effect, none with this action. Recommendation, approve the city manager's evaluation and extend the term of the manager's contract by 2 years to September 30th, 2024 at the existing compensation level. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
We have a motion. Commissioner Hanley?
I move that we approve the city manager's evaluation and extend the term of the manager's contract by 2 years to September 30th, 2024 at the existing compensation level.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Bonzal?
I'll second that motion, Your Honor.
Commissioner Hanley, any discussion?
I would just like to thank Manager Kovacs for all the wonderful work she's done. We have been lucky to have you as a part of this team during a very trying budget time. Having your accounting background has been invaluable. I also do like the fact that I know that we did not offer a compensation raise, but I know that you declined to take any raises until your staff could get raises, which I think is very honorable to see, and I really appreciate that about you. But thank you so much for all you've done, and I really hope you accept your contract.
Commissioner Bonzal, any more discussion?
Yes. I just want to echo Commissioner Hanley's comments about how I feel that we've been incredibly blessed to have Karen's expertise, her interpersonal skills and communication skills, her valuable experience dealing with even more difficult financial circumstances at the municipal level than we have faced here in Marquette in the last couple of years. And I think that served us very well. And I also just want to say, you know, I've heard so many positive things in the community. You know, we we get to see and work with you every day, and we get to see a lot of the work that you do behind the scenes. But even in the community as a whole, I've had multiple people, basically verbatim tell me, "Oh, that Karen Kovacs is such a breath of fresh air. It seems like she really cares. She really knows what she's talking about." And that community reputation, especially so early on in what will hopefully be a long and prosperous and productive tenure as city manager, is so valuable. So I happily second this motion. I also just want to say, regardless of who is serving as city manager or city attorney, that our subcommittee, we did discuss the need to go back at some point in the near future here and reevaluate our evaluation process for the city manager and city attorney. I think our evaluation form could do for some streamlining, and also will just need to be changed and updated, and our process will need to be changed and updated because we've got a new community master plan and potentially a new, or at least an updated city charter coming down the pipeline in the next year here, that could affect our expectations and our evaluation criteria. So hopefully we can get another subcommittee of the commission together at some point in the next year to redesign that process accordingly.
Any other comments from the commission? Commissioner Stonehouse?
The only comment, Your Honor, and I think it's one also for the audience, is that this is a remarkable, very remarkable lady. And we have her doing precisely the right job at precisely the right time. She's what the city needs, and I cannot speak highly enough of her in any professional or personal status. We have a winner, and I wish we could do more than what we're able to do, but we understand, as does our manager, the extreme financial difficulties that we're trying to work our way through. Thank you, Your Honor, for the time.
Right, anything else from the commission? Just make sure before.
We're not asking you either.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Number 8, contract for community master plan update. City Clerk, could we have the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The City Commission has identified a comprehensive update to the Community Master Plan as a priority for fiscal year 2022-23. Staff conducted an RFP to solicit proposals from land use planning firms interested in the project. The city received 5 proposals, which were evaluated by a project team of the Community Development Director, City Planner, Planning Commission Chair, and Assistant City Manager. Lengthy interviews were conducted with 3 of the 5 firms via Zoom, with the subsequent evaluation meeting held by the evaluation personnel. As a result of the above process, it is recommended that the City Commission execute the attached contract with the firm of Beckett and Rader. Their proposal, attached, provides for a highly experienced and knowledgeable team that clearly understood the type of community-engaged effort we are looking for in Marquette. Fiscal effect: the proposal cost breakdown is $59,500 from the city and $30,000 from the MEDC Redevelopment Ready Communities Technical Assistant Program. The city portion is budgeted for in the fiscal year 2022-23 budget. Recommendation: approve the recommendation to hire Beckett and Rader as the primary consultant to assist with the Community Master Plan update and direct the city manager to execute the contract. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I recommend to approve, I motion to approve the recommendation to hire Beckett and Rader as the primary consultant to assist the Community Master Plan update and to direct the city manager to execute the contract.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Davis?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Stonehouse, any discussion?
Only that Beckett and Rader is a highly, highly competent consultant, and I'm sure that their services will be well used.
Commissioner Davis, any discussion?
Yes, I'm happy to support this motion. I think the $30,000 grant from the MEDC is one that is one of our benefits from being a redevelopment-ready community, and that speaks to the staff and their ability to get to that point. I'm particularly pleased that we're contracting with this agency, and if you're interested in their proposal, take a look at our agenda. It's on the city website, and the process studies the uniqueness of Marquette and solicits input from the community, and that's great, and addresses a lot of issues that are that we're concerned about: coastal resiliency, sustainable tourism, housing, transportation, facilities, future land use, and I suspect that we will have a voice for childcare in Marquette, and it will also include those kind of issues if you come to the public engagement meetings.
Any other discussion from the commission? I just wanted to add that I am looking forward to really get going on this process. I feel like there are a lot of things that have changed in the city of Marquette in the last 10 years, 20 years. And this process is a way to solicit feedback from our community, from our departments, from our staff, from our community partners, residents, business owners, of what the community wants and needs, and then to find a way to translate all of those wishes into a working document that we can use for several years to work on implementing the changes we also dearly want. So it's really important that folks participate. We're not quite at that point yet, but once we have a contract signed and we're rolling, we'll have public input in a variety of ways to be determined, but that will be out in all the normal ways that we communicate. So I'm looking forward to getting going on that. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now we are on to our second public comment session of the evening. If you'd like to speak, 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and physical address unless you've already done so at this meeting.
Hello, this is Taylor again. I would also recommend the city look to the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission as our city has grown. Many who live in areas such as Towbridge, the Village, or other parts of the city that are considered City of Marquette are not able to vote for important elections such as mayor, road commissioner, or city commissioner. This has led those who keep Marquette moving unable to voice what is needed through voting, which is why we are here today. I also urge the city to work with the county commission for proper use of the APR funding, which is for those that were impacted by the COVID pandemic. Some examples would be mental health, childcare for parents, education, looking into the housing crisis, the drug epidemic, and also the disabled needs that are not being met. As instead of the modernization of the courthouse that doesn't reflect their union security concerns, that they claim 3.7 million of the 13 million of the rent are for renovations of the courthouse. If we don't hop on making sure that money is properly used in the community, it is a slap in the face. That money is for those that were negatively impacted by the COVID pandemic. And one of the main things that was closed during the pandemic was the courthouse, which led into a rise of unable to file for MSHDA, unable to file for DHS, and unable to file for child support services. In addition, that also concerns me about the disabled community is their dual point entry. There is already many differently abled people in our community that have trouble accessing the county clerk and the courthouse, and those renovations don't talk about becoming handicap accessible. So I urge the city to get on the county commission to make sure these funds are properly used. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Dinner in, so that's good, and I'm back. I just wanted to touch a little bit more on a few solutions that I think would be some ideas for funds that could be well spent. Being in the schools as a school-based therapist last fall, and the reason why I created the business on Coles Drive is because 3 women cried to me in 1 week that they didn't have access to therapy services close to their home, and the wait lists were up to 70 kids long for speech therapy services, which you can guess that it was a direct link from the pandemic because we couldn't see people's mouths. So little ones learning to speak weren't able to learn the same movements. So I think it's really important that we look at how those funds are being allocated specifically to that. We had one mom that drove her 18-month-old out of state to Appleton every week so that her 18-month-old that was failure to thrive due to feeding concerns wasn't on her mind every night. With that waiting list being 7 to 9 months, we know early intervention is super important. We can't get early intervention if they're sitting on a wait list. We also know that 15 to 20 hours of treatment gets a kid off a speech list. So how can we provide group therapy services to at least then decrease that wait list and start to service those kids? And I think that's a way that some of those funds could be allocated in an impact fund for therapy services that could provide group-based services. We've created over 7 LLCs in our building of female-led companies. Half of our building is pediatric therapy services, mental health, and behavioral health. The other half is childcare. So we're able to meet both needs at one place. And the reason really childcare was part of that was because 70% of OT-PT speech are female. So if I don't provide them childcare, I don't have staff. As I mentioned, we'll have 16 slots. All of those infant slots are full. We will be opening October 3rd, and we also have after-school programs that we're starting at Father Marquette that'll range from mental health all the way to OT services and speech services. My ask to you is for impact funds to provide individual and group services as well as after-school on-site programming. Instead of us providing services at our location, we're going directly to Father Marquette, and we'd love to do that in other districts. And I have such talented women with such advanced degrees that now it's like, we have these people, we need to just plug them into the right places and have the funds to funnel in the right ways. I would love to expand our site, and we do have room for that, but as you learned from earlier, it cost me so far $50,000 just from April to October to get to this point, and our doors are not open until next Monday. So any funds that could be allocated to promoting the expansion or additional sites, I have spoke to the county commissioners, and they said unless it makes a countywide impact, we're not interested. So that shut me down for 2 nights.
That's
Then
2 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, Barb Outside, 1324 North Front. I'm just speaking totally off the cuff, so I'm going to apologize for any misinformation that I might. As I'm sitting here thinking about this childcare thing, the thought that keeps returning to or coming to me is that, doesn't NMU or DLP have some element of responsibility for their employers? And, I think about NMU and all, and the fact that, where they're at in terms of, taxes to the city, and every time, I'll go down that, I don't want to go down that. But it would seem like, is there some way of the city pressuring them to think about, some kind of childcare solution? I mean, they have these, degrees in education and child development and an endorsement in child development. It would seem like, it seems like they should have some responsibility. And again, I feel the same way about DLP. I mean, they've got, I think you know what I'm saying. And I would advocate for some sort of pressure if that's possible. And again, I apologize if this is something that you guys already have tried to do and know about. But anyway, thanks.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, my name is Gwen Storm. I live at 1027 2nd Street in Marquette, Michigan. And I am a social worker. I'm a mother of 2. I have a 5-year-old who goes to Grave Rat and a 2-year-old. And I have been involved in, probably since the summertime, of trying to help with the childcare situation in Marquette. And I think that the gist of what I want to say is that from the county, we've kind of heard, look, this is not what we normally do. We're used to paying for people to go to jail, paying for people to come into our court system, paying for people to have mental health and addiction services. It's not our job to address the childcare crisis. And I understand it might not have been traditionally thought of a county responsibility, or maybe even a city responsibility. as a social worker, as an infant mental health worker, knowing the impact that maternal and paternal stress has on a developing child, we end up seeing that at so many junctures in our city, in our county, in our state. We see it in childcare facilities. We see it in the education system. My husband's a teacher at Gwynn High School. And just everything that you touch is touched by a child, and is touched by a child who either had enough or didn't have enough. And I really urge you as city commissioners, even if it hasn't been part of your master plan, if it hasn't been part of your way of thinking, law enforcement even, that you would see childcare and children as an answer to a lot of the things that you are currently spending a lot of money on. If children get what they need, if families get what they need, they are able to prosper, they are able to contribute to the community, they are able to help other people. It's kind of like a snowball effect. So I really would encourage you, instead of looking at what you've done in the past, to look at what's possible for our community, what's possible for the city of Marquette in terms of being leaders who prioritize the future of our community. And I think that people are watching. I think that people do care. Maybe they're not all coming here to talk to you, but I know that there's certainly an appetite for leadership on the county level and on the city level, and I hope that you will do what you can to show that. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, Angela again. I decided to go ahead and comment again, because the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I didn't realize what was all on the agenda for today's commission meeting when I came. I'm just trying to become a more regular participant. So I did want to say that Mayor Smith recommended that I speak with the city manager in July because I had a concern, and she met with me, and she has great interpersonal skills and told me very kind things, and I do appreciate that. So the reason I'm here today, or what I wanted to talk about, my husband was here last month and touched on pedestrian safety. For those of you who don't know, I was recently on the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee. It was unfortunately a brief experience, but I did read a lot and I learned a lot. So my husband mentioned our son was hit in May by a car. He was in a crosswalk. He was on his way to Bothwell. When we already felt, like informed and passionate about pedestrian safety. When your son or your own child's hit and they get a pretty severe concussion and they're still dealing with the effects 4 months later, it rises to your priority list. So hearing about the budget tonight, what I wanted to talk about were the pedestrian signs that were removed, because everything I read talks about that is the most budget-friendly way to improve pedestrian safety. They're temporary, you can move them on and off the street. If you don't have enough crossing guards, which even the crossing guards position that are filled, Graverette, for example, has one, but kids go in all directions. A crossing guard could put those signs at the streets they're not at. It's a very budget-friendly way to improve pedestrian safety. And I realized, and I read about the reason they were taken down, but it doesn't make sense to me, and I haven't really had anyone able to explain to me why they can't remain. I know it can't say state law on it. It talked about covering up the state law part because it is a local law to yield to pedestrians within a crosswalk. Reading more of the Unified Traffic Code, it talks about when pedestrians have to yield to vehicles, and that's when if you're not in a crosswalk, so crossing mid-block. It also refers to never, and I did not know this, pedestrians can't cross the street even if they're not in a crosswalk if you're in a business section. So I didn't know that. I do live right by business sections, so that's good to know. And I just think it looks very clear to me and a budget-friendly way to improve pedestrian safety. All pedestrians are vulnerable road users because they're not surrounded by metal, but especially children, the elderly. I wanted to share a story, but I won't have time, about my grandma's assisted living at home who went to Music on 3rd in a concerning crossing the street situation with one of her friends. All of that can be improved with
That's 3 minutes. Thank
cheap
you.
signs on the road.
Anyone else for public comment?
One more comment. This is Shilpa
Did
again.
she speak at the second?
No,
Okay,
it's
I'm just
public
misremembering. Go ahead.
Okay, I
Sorry.
spoke at the budget. I wanted to respond about Northern and their role in our childcare crisis. So a group of us formed a task force called the NMU Early Childhood Education Center Task Force, and we asked Northern to bring back their center that they used to have 10 years ago. They have not agreed to that, but about 10 years ago, there was a center on campus in the Jacobetti Center, and it was working very well, and I'm not sure why they got rid of it. It turned into a Head Start classroom, and then very recently, they asked Head Start to also move out of that building because they're going to remodel it, and Head Start is not going to be having a space there in the future. So I think Northern does have a really big role as a huge employer here in terms of if they had a center that would free up spaces in the community that staff and faculty, kids are taking up right now. Additionally, Northern used to have a 4-year education program to train teachers, and this program trained teachers for across the UP. And when they shut down that program, Michigan Tech, all our childcare providers, the entire UP is now facing a teaching shortage of teachers. So in terms of funding, we talked about, but there's also advocacy that each of you can probably do and have these conversations with people at Northern, with the hospital, with business owners to see if we can find ways, because it seems like some of the things that Northern were involved with is having a huge impact now 10 years later on our community. So just wanted to bring that up and let you know there's a group of faculty, staff, and I'm representing community that's very concerned about what are the businesses in our community doing to tackle this issue as well. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. Orville Ishno, 1802 Kimber, Marquette. Well, the budget's out of the way, but probably not far enough. I want to thank the whole commission, Karen and her staff, for coming up with the budget, something we can live with, apparently. But we got to make sure our Finnish friends don't sing the Hinky Lunta Snowdance song, so we get the plows out. But the other thing is, please don't forget the surplus city property, where we might be able to get somebody to build something on there where we can get those tax dollars back again. So, thank you for your time.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Seeing no further public comment is now closed. Brings us to comments from the commission. We'll start out with Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I want to, first, before I get started, I understand that the city manager has some comments on childcare to bring folks up to speed on some of the things that have happened with childcare, and then I will take my time back.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. I did just I wanted to update both the commission and the community on the things that we as the city have kind of started exploring and talking about. And I do want to just say that from day one, I think since I walked through that door, I had an email from the mayor talking about some of the critical needs that we have in the community, and childcare was at the top of that. So this has been something we've been talking about for over a year, and it's been brought to my attention that there are some things that we have done within community development and zoning that I will pass over to our community development director here shortly. But I do just want to also reiterate the conversations that we've also had from both an employer standpoint, but also as the city. And those conversations have been with other key stakeholders within the community, and that actually starts with some of the larger employers. And so I think we've covered a few of them when we talk about the university and the hospital, because those needs as for childcare, for faculty and students and staff and just a community in general are very different than some of the 9-to-5 employers that we do have, or in this instance, ourselves, and being a quote-unquote 9-to-5 employer. So it's been an interesting conversation, and those needs I do hear, and I know that there's several other organizations that are having the same conversations, and I think we're moving in the same direction. It just is all, how do we come together, and what is our role, and what we can do as a municipality. And I do just want to say that, you know, the conversations that City Attorney and I will be having, as well as Finance, is what we're allowed to spend our funds on, and that's outside of even just ARPA dollars, but also as public funds. And those are things that we will work through, and we will communicate with the commission so we understand what money is being spent on and how we accomplish some of these community needs. But going back to the discussions we do have with our community members, there is representation right now that is heading down to Lansing, and I know that talking points include childcare needs. And I think the Community Foundation has really taken a spearhead on the efforts for childcare and expressing those needs, and those points are being shared with us here at the city level, and I will be sharing those with the commission if they aren't already. I think they have been. But we are talking about what we can do for our community and what we can do easier, and make it easier and more available for childcare to be something that can open within our city limits. I think it was mentioned previously some of the challenges that are out there regarding inspectors. I do want to say that is something that was made, we were made aware of, because it is a state inspection that is required. And as you said, there's only 2, and they are severely backlogged, and it's 6 months to a year out before an inspection can occur. And you know, unique ways that we as a city can take advantage of that would be being able to take the burden off of the state and possibly take that and have that delegated down to the local level. Unfortunately, we are only one municipality, and we are only allowed to do efforts within our city limits. And we're fortunate enough to have that qualified staff if it were a possibility. But those are the things that we talk about on the city side and what we can do. But that doesn't stop there. We've also made some changes, and if you don't mind, I would like to kick that over to our community development director, that we've made for zoning to make it easier. Permitting process is a little bit more streamlined, and on the city requirement, make that a little bit more possible. So Dennis, if you don't mind jumping in on that.
You summarized it beautiful for me, because nobody wants to hear me talk for 15 minutes about one thing. But the in-home daycare, it's allowed in virtually any district, residential district. It's a simple zoning permit through the city community development department. But like people said, where the problem comes in is the state of Michigan when it goes to that. As far as what would be considered a group daycare, some of the larger stuff, those also are the same way. They're permitted uses in the district. It's just a matter of meeting those state requirements. The state of Michigan recently preempted our zoning by allowing more kids in some of the homes. We don't have to amend our zoning ordinance in order to honor that. We just had our zoning administrator make an annotation in there. So, I mean, that rule still applies with us. It's a matter of the state level type things, and those inspections for the people is really where we see the challenges.
Thank you. And so with that being said, we hear this on the staff level and the administration level, and obviously listening to our commission as well. And so I really do want to just say that these are things that we are taking into consideration. We are getting creative, which is what I hear is the UP way, to get things done. So, keep the conversations happening, and we will keep our eyes open and look for every opportunity that we as a municipality on the administration side can take advantage of. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
I would just add, for those who couldn't stay, that this meeting is recorded, so you could share the link later with maybe someone who had to leave due to childcare, some of those responses. So I'm sorry, resume your comments. Go ahead, Commissioner Allen.
Okay, thank you. We really, I wanted to make sure that we took care, that this is obviously a very, very important issue, and I wanted us to start off with the ability to speak back to those issues that were raised. When we design our communities for children first, we all will thrive in those conditions. And and that is what we need to make sure gets into our master plan. If it's safe for a child, it's safe for all of us. Getting to pedestrian safety, but also getting to the needs and wants, as was so well said by Gwen, thank you, on if we are taking care of our children, so many other things that become problems later. And government does have a role in that. And so let's make sure that our street design and the way you've heard me say before, take care of our sidewalks needs to take the children into consideration first. And that includes strollers, so that if the stroller can get through, then everyone else can get through. That should just be that's where we start with our conversation on how we manage our city and invest in our playgrounds and things like that. And we have what's going to come next year with a new fully accessible playground down at Matson Park that's going to get installed next year. That's going to be amazing. The new piers that are coming, that's going to be really exciting. And so there are investments coming that were delayed somewhat by COVID, but now we have these new opportunities that I think are going to be wonderful, but bringing that also into the communities where people live within walking distance, I think are things that people are beginning to understand how valuable that is. I want to say, the city budget, I didn't want to have to spend that money on that fire truck, let me tell you. I'll just be completely honest. I have joked, that I bought a fire truck today. Those words left my mouth, but we need to invest also in the future. We made a very prudent purchase of then also a used fire truck to get us through, so that we're not having to buy two at the same time. So that, but now that those needs are met, again, as we see what comes out of Lansing and then what's going to continue to come out potentially, the guidance, the other thing to understand about the federal money that's available is that the guidance on the federal money is also just being developed right now. So it's going to be in the first 3 months of 2023 is when we begin to understand what money is available at the federal level, truly what can go for what. Like the bill was passed last few months, but now it's the feds say, okay, and here's how you can spend the money, and here's the timeline for applying for the grant and all that kind of stuff. That's all coming to us as well. And I think we'll continue to do a great job to be ready for that, but that is something else. As the question of match is a really important one. And so maybe even holding some funds back to be ready to spend that money for the upcoming year. There's going to be a lot more money available. And then as someone who's worked for a number of years in private philanthropy, there is also that opportunity for private philanthropy to serve as match. The Community Foundation is doing what it can, but there may also be, if we go at a regional level with the county, say, or even beyond that to Marquette Alger or larger, the central UP, that's how you go get the bigger money, is when you partner with other entities. I want to, Bree, thank you for all you're doing. That's really incredible, the center that you're putting together and the opportunities. And I don't think I've seen is the ribbon cutting set? Okay. So I want to make sure we highlight that. Thanks for hanging in there through all of this. And let's see, and then we voted on the master plan today, but that is going to be our opportunity to really step up and speak up, and let's give those contractors all they can handle. Thank you.
Mr. Stonehouse?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Couple of quick things. I think it's, city manager certainly and the director of community development certainly provided, I think, some good background information, some real data as to what's happening behind the scenes to help solve this problem. But as I said before, I think it would be really important for us to understand how we're going to solve it and with what. And even just to determine the scope of the problem. How many children in the city of Marquette, and that's our only concern, the city of Marquette, we are the Marquette City Commission. How many do we have to place in childcare? And at what categories and at what level? so that when you go to the legislators and you say, we need this funding support, you have a database to work against. And right now, we don't. It's almost like affordable housing. It's this mythical thing floating there, but we don't have a number to it. Or workforce housing, we don't have a number to it. We know we have a need, and a very significant need, but we don't have a number. So somehow we've got to be able to capture that number, and from that you can extrapolate out the funding needed. If any of you has an in with a legislator, I would certainly bend their ear most strongly on the need for childcare and support from Lansing on various funding programs. Because again, follow the money. That's where the money is. That's where we have to figure out how to capture it. Same thing with county. County's sitting on $13 million. And we're all citizens and certainly have a right to tell them how they should spend their money, the same way people as our residents will tell us how to spend our money. But we've got to take that action. Lastly, a plea to the city staff. Can we come up with somebody who has the ability to actually approve or disapprove PowerPoint presentations? We somehow have the ability when we do a PowerPoint to think that we ought to use 2.1 type. If it's not legible across this meeting room, it's not passable to be shown in public. If it's not legible across this room, it should not be trying to be seen on a television set at home, because that's the real audience that should be looking at it. Somehow we have the feeling of how much can we ram onto a slide, and therefore it's good. It ought to be how little you put on a slide to assure you have people be able to understand it and see it. So somehow we got to be able to get a handle on that, because it's getting, I think, a little bit out of hand. Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Bonzel?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. I also want to thank everybody who took time out of their evening. They're clearly very busy evenings to come here and speak with us tonight and share your stories and share your concerns. I attended the county board meeting last week as well. I was there just as a member of the community, but of course I also serve here on the city commission, and I had heard many people in our community while I'm knocking doors or from emails and phone calls that I've gotten mention childcare as one of the most pressing concerns facing our community. Most of the people who attended that county board meeting said that they had never spoken at or even attended a public meeting like that or like this one before, and I see a lot of the same faces in the room tonight, so that is really encouraging, and it gives me hope that we can solve this issue. I believe that the most important job of any local government is to help provide a livable community for all of its residents. I've lived in Marquette for 25 years, which is also how long I've been alive, and at this point, it is undeniable. It is absolutely clear to me and most people I know in this community that Marquette is rapidly becoming an unlivable community for most regular working class people and families. A lack of affordable housing and family-sustaining jobs are usually cited as the main causes of that livability crisis, and rightfully so. But childcare is an issue that is just as important. I believe that if an issue is affecting people's lives here in Marquette, then it is a city issue, and the people of Marquette should expect us to do something about it, or at least try. This is just as true for childcare as it is for other issues that affect child well-being like housing, homelessness, economic development, and other important problems facing our community that have often been dismissed as, you know, they're not city issues or they aren't in our master plan or our strategic plan, et cetera. For the thousands of Marquette families with children, this is a crisis. It's an urgent crisis. Just like some quick statistics, Marisa did a survey this year that found 71% of parents in Marquette and Alger counties are unable to find adequate childcare. The 2021 Marquette County Master Plan, which I helped write as a county employee, stated that there's a major shortage of affordable licensed childcare options in Marquette County. It can take up to a year, or as we heard tonight, even longer, to get through some local childcare centers' waiting lists. This means that an expecting mother in our county would potentially need to register for childcare immediately upon learning of her pregnancy, and probably even earlier, which is clearly unreasonable. Yeah. 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 No, absolutely. So, I mean, which, how ridiculous is that, right? So, yeah. So availability is also not the only problem, though, right? Childcare is also unaffordable for a lot of people. There was a study that the Michigan Department of Education did a few years ago. They found that Marquette County, little old Marquette County, has the 5th highest childcare market rate for infant care among all 83 counties in this state, the 6th highest toddler care rate, and the 12th highest preschool rate. And as the Marquette County Master Plan concluded, quote, "This shortage of affordable child care options is not reasonable or sustainable and is hurting Marquette County families." And I quoted the county master plan because the city's master plan barely mentions child care at all. That's something we're going to have to change, but it does not prevent us from taking action right now. So this is an urgent problem. An incrementalist approach to solving this problem is simply inadequate. The time for gradual change that won't make anybody uncomfortable, has no costs, right? That time is over. It was over a few years ago, and people need to catch up to that reality, frankly. So I think that we need to start with what we can control. As I said earlier, I would like to see us potentially cut some of our non-essential promotional fee relief funding in this budget or find funding elsewhere. To provide our community with a dozen trained and certified child development associates this year. That would represent about a 25% reduction in that promotional fee relief, and it wouldn't touch any, of these fundamental public community events like holiday celebrations and, Pigs in Heat and things like that. It's not enough, not by a long shot. We need to do a lot more, but it would be a start, and it would be actual funding that we could put forward to make a difference in our community. I don't think we need more sympathetic words that don't get backed up by action. We don't need plans that sit on shelves or policy recommendations that go ignored. We don't need more passing of the buck. We definitely don't need to be educated by our government officials about the problems affecting our lives. As a local elected official suggested last week, the people of this town need and deserve better than that. So with that, I will pass it along to Commissioner Davis, but I just want to conclude by saying I think we can solve this issue. We can make a livable community for families here in Marquette. The question is whether people sitting in this room and others like it will choose to do so. Thank you.
Well, there's not a whole lot I can add to that. I do want to thank those of you that came here because you gave the personal experiences to the issue that's been talked about. And I think you have an audience that's very much interested in this. I'm looking at us and I see 3 commissioners who have young children. I see 4 staff that have young children. I am one of those grandmothers that gets to step in as a child care provider when it's not available. So, yeah, we understand. The document that you provided to our mayor earlier today, the Child Care and Homeless Needs Assessment, I took some time to read and I felt it was a very good document. Thank you for putting that together and thank you for bringing it to us. And we talked a lot about childcare today, but we also, there's a second part of that dealt with homelessness. And, it's something that I've been made quite aware of over the last year or two through other avenues. But, families without housing means that there are children that are friends and classmates of our children who are leaving school and do not have a stable place to sleep and to play after school, and so much of their development is affected. So we can't not address that homelessness issue in our city also. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Hanley? Thank you. I also want to thank you all for coming. As someone who spent an hour and a half this afternoon trying to find someone to cover my regular sitter so that I could come to a meeting without my 5-year-old because my husband works out of town on Monday, I completely sympathize with what you go through. I my husband and I swapped schedules for the first 2 years of my son's life because childcare was so hard to find even 5 years ago. He and I spent very little time together because he worked weekends, or I worked weekends, he worked weekdays. He'd go to work when I came home. It was awful, but it was what we had to do to make it work. And we were lucky enough to be able to make it work. Not everyone has the flexibility that we had in our schedules. I do think that the county ARPA funds that are available should be allocated, that is as a citizen, not as a city commissioner, but I think that pushing back on them and showing that there are things, they've gotten tangible ideas with the YMCA project, with Britta's projects, with different things, to have options to use that money for and have immediate relief. I do think we should work with Northern to try and get back a child care facility. I know you're working very hard in your role with your committee, but I think that working as a city and as a county with them could be a viable thing, and I would like to see that happen. I know that if we had a larger budget, I don't think there'd be a city commissioner up here that wouldn't try to find a way to help, and we still will. It's just with the constraints we're under, it's very difficult at this point. I do encourage, like all the other commissioners, come to our master planning, make your voices heard, because then we can push to make sure it's part of that, and we can make sure that this isn't an issue for 20 years down the road, for 10 years down the road, that we can cover this. This is something we need to address now so that future people can be saved the trouble that we're going through. Other than that, I would like to say happy birthday to Commissioner Hill, and thank you guys again.
Pro Tem Mayor?
Let's see. I do want to just take a moment to thank everyone in the public and everyone that was here and they had to leave, but for coming out tonight and speaking with us. You know, I'm glad Commissioner Davis pointed out that at least 3 of us up here do in fact have small children, and it is a real struggle. It is. You know, my daughter was born 3 weeks before the COVID lockdown started, so that was an interesting experience for new parents with no family in the area. And right now we're making it work, and it involves me usually getting up at 5:30 in the morning and us working very complicated schedules to make it work, but it's a struggle, and I wish we could do more to help. You know, I think Commissioner Sonos probably agree. If you go back 10 years ago, you know, city services, you go to a city government, streets, water, sewer, you know, basic city services you think about. But now, what I've at least been noticing in the last year or two is more and more of the public is coming to their local units of government to ask for help with childcare, housing, you name it, saving the planet. And it's really, in my opinion, just shows that our state and federal level is just not meeting those obligations. It's unfortunate. Really have a lot I want to say on this, but I can tell my voice is going on me, so but again, thank you, and please keep it up.
I would say that we've had a productive meeting tonight. Budget talk, we've got some important agenda items, but more importantly, it was really great to hear from members of the public who are concerned and want to do something. I may not have an answer for you today, but I think the most important thing for me that came out of tonight is hearing some of your individual stories, because while we're sitting up here and we have an agenda in front of us and tonight is kind of laid out as to what our plan is, we are often having conversations in the community. We're often sitting with people who can influence change in our community and in our region and in our state. And so for us to have your voices and your stories in our pocket to be able to pull out and help illustrate what the needs in our community are, I think that's really helpful for these next steps. And this is, obviously, I've mentioned already, this is something that I'm very passionate about. I've been a little busy the last few years, so it's kind of been something that has gotten pushed to the back burner for me, but I appreciate hearing your passion, and it's kind of reignited how important this issue is in our community. So thank you. I did want to give a shout out to our city staff and especially department heads, because through COVID, I know the city of Marquette, I think, has really been a leader in flexibility for our staff who have had childcare needs, who have had a complicated difficulty with either quarantines or kids who had to stay home during the lockdown or children who are sick, flexible work policies. And I know this is something I've discussed at length with Commissioner Bonzel, actually. He's got a lot of great ideas, and maybe they'll come out in the future, but ways to recognize our employers in the area for those kinds of practices and find a way to boost them up and make them a model for others. So, and I want to give him credit for those kinds of ideas. But there is certainly more we can do that doesn't, I mean, yes, we need to find the money, but there are other things we can do as well. So it's top of mind. So thank you. The last thing I wanted to say is congratulations to Karen and Suzanne on 2 more years. Thank you for the work you've done. The number of things that each of you deal with in a day is impossible to fathom. I think I talked to Karen 4 times today, and it was a different topic every time. I know when I talk to Suzanne, I call her about one thing and she's working on something completely different. They're all important. It keeps us going, and you really provide that that solid foundation of leadership for the rest of the departments to be able to do the important work we need to, and that connection for us on the commission to be able to achieve our goals, as difficult as they can be with whatever, budgetary or political or weather disaster, whatever you want to call it, but we've always got hurdles in the way, and you're always there jumping them. So I'm really excited that you're staying on for 2 more years. I hope it's several, or if not many, many more years after that. But it feels good to be able to move forward with each of you. And I wanted to get after the vote before I said that, because it always feels funny to say it before we take the vote. That's all I had tonight. City Manager, do you have any comments?
I think the only thing we can say is let's get to work. So thank you very much for tonight. I appreciate everything. Thanks.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:56 p.m. Thanks, everyone.